Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and potential Toastmasters. Welcome to the show. This is Wake Up with Toastmasters. We're a little bit later than usual this morning. I had some technical difficulties getting us posted on Facebook, but we are certainly glad to be here joining you today. You probably were expecting your club growth director, Scott Transu, but Scott, unfortunately, was feeling a bit under the weather. So you're kind of stuck with me for today. But I am very glad to be here, and I have what I think is going to be an interesting topic, one that I've been sort of working with for some time now, and that's sort of mastering your presentations in a hybrid environment. All of us know that a hybrid environment is very, very different, and there are some wonderful resources on the TI website, which I will get to a little bit later in the show, that talk about maximizing your presentations in a hybrid environment. So we're going to talk about that. And of course, I have a PowerPoint presentation that I'd like to share with you. So let's see if I can find that in my share screen. There we go. And let me share that. And as we get going here, I think we'll be set here in just a second. There we go. Okay, so hybrid presentations. Let's talk about that. First of all, take a moment to think about the evolution of where we are today with technology. And I loved this little cartoon, so I had to share it with you. It says, if you can't see it, sadly, the evolution of the species comes to an abrupt stop during the digital age. And here we have in the far right side of this cartoon, the character is looking down at their phone and smashing it into a wall. I'm sure all of us feel that way. But my point here is that presentations have evolved. We started out, of course, with in-person presentations, and all of us were accustomed to that. Meetings were in person. The thought of meeting online didn't occur to many of us. Even after COVID hit, it took some time for us to move from an in-person type of meeting to an online meeting. And we kind of got used to that for a couple of years. We had everything online, including all of our contests. So that was a little bit different. And we had some very, very talented people here in District 115 that helped us to navigate that. And it was really what turned out to be a pretty tremendous experience. So now we're combining the two. In-person and online equals hybrid if you put the two together. So the hybrid meeting is now the model that all of us live with and deal with and work with, and likely will for the foreseeable future. Hybrid offers so many options, and it's just really exciting for me. As an example, in my home club, Early Risers Toastmasters, which, by the way, meets online every Wednesday at 6:30 a.m. But we have a member who actually lives in the Philippines, and he is able to attend our meetings through Zoom. And we've had visitors from all over the world, and I've had an opportunity to visit different countries through different programs on Zoom. So it truly has been amazing. But that's not to suggest that the adaptation we've made has been painless. It has at times been very painful, and I'm sure that many of you have attended hybrid meetings, as I have, that were very, very disappointing. Technology was bad. We didn't have good cameras. We didn't have good speakers. So the video and the audio were less than desirable. And that adds to what already is a bit more problematic. When you're doing a presentation in a hybrid setting, it's a little bit more complicated and challenging than doing really either a in-person, standalone in-person, or online. So we're going to take a look at that today. Okay, first, I want to point out that our communications have expanded options these days. I'm sure I don't have to tell you that, but Right now, we are live on Facebook, albeit after a few technical issues I had to try and resolve. YouTube, we could also post this on YouTube. Many of you have your own YouTube channel because I've seen you there, where you are working on becoming a professional speaker, a professional consultant, and what have you. TikTok, that's another communications outlet that uses videos, and you can do presentations and what have you on TikTok. I'm not terribly familiar with it. Podcasts, however, I love podcasts. When I'm driving on a long road trip, I love to listen to different podcasts, and I find that, very, very entertaining and informative. It's not unlike what you get when you have like an audio book. Sometimes an audio book can really help make that long drive in the car seem much shorter, as can podcasts. And those are two types of communications, podcasts and audiobooks, where you really have to think about things like vocal variety. What is it that keeps your audience engaged when you only have audio? That's a really challenging situation. And then there are webinars, and webinars can be sort of one-on-one. You're just watching a previously recorded presentation, or hopefully they're more interactive, and interactive webinars are much more engaging. So the point is, we have new outlets, new ways of communicating. We've expanded our communication methodologies and technologies across the internet on different types of platforms. Speaking of which, even when we are using a platform, they're different. We have Zoom. This is probably the most common. Zoom really took off in the COVID era. We have WebEx, and I've used WebEx before. In fact, I still use it. I'm on the board of directors for an organization that only meets online, and they use WebEx. Google Meet, I've used Google Meet for some things. I haven't really used Microsoft Teams that much. Once or twice I have, and I found it to be a little bit more challenging. And then, of course, Skype is probably one of the older video communication tools that that's been around for a while for us to use. My point here is that when you're working on a hybrid meeting or a hybrid presentation of any sort, the platform that you use needs to be one that your audience is going to be able to use or is familiar with, and that you yourself are familiar with. There are certain similarities, of course, across all of these platforms, but each has its unique characteristics that you really need to take time to learn. The other part of that, of course, is what is your audience using? Are they using a desktop computer to participate in the presentation? Are they using a laptop or a tablet or a cell phone? More and more we find that people are on the go, and that the mobile version of these platforms is becoming more and more sophisticated. Nevertheless, I do find attending a meeting by phone to be much more of a problem for me. It's smaller. I've had to do it a couple of times when my computer was down or I was having trouble with my computer. And I found it to really make it much more difficult to focus on the presentation in a very small environment. And maybe a newer phone, I might need a newer phone to make that a little more interesting. But when you are presenting, you need to think about what are the limitations of the platform, what kind of platform are you going to use, and what is your audience going to use? Things you didn't have to think about before, but particularly in a hybrid environment, it becomes very, very important. The online audience is a little bit different. I've been at the end of this presentation this morning, I'm going to give you some references that I consulted in the Toastmasters magazine, but I learned a little bit more about the expectations of an online audience and how they are different. And one of them you can see right away in this picture that I'm showing here. This gentleman looks pretty bored. He doesn't seem to be really that engaged, and that is a problem. It is more difficult with a hybrid or online audience to get them engaged in what you're talking about. Studies have shown that the online audience has a shorter attention span, and we have to try and allow for that. It challenges us as presenters and speakers to get them engaged and keep them engaged over a period of time. There's a sense of isolation or being disconnected, and that probably contributes to the shorter attention span that our online audience may feel. And certainly I have participated in hybrid meetings where the presenter is focused on the in-room audience. They are the focus of the presentation. They're there, they're interacting and what have you. And there's a tendency to ignore, not on purpose, but just human nature, because you're focused on the audience in the room, but to ignore or not pay enough attention to your online audience. And that contributes to the isolation and disconnection that they may feel. And then, of course, I mentioned a little bit about technical issues that can disrupt the process. If you don't have a good, strong Wi-Fi, that's the first thing, of course. And you've got to have good cameras, you've got to have good audio. And if you don't have those things, those technical issues are definitely going to get in the way of your presentation. And of course, we're learning still, at least I feel I am. I still have a lot to learn in how to best use and combine what we know about presentation skills plus our technical skills to give a hybrid presentation that is truly the best for both our in-room and our online audience. It's a new challenge that we as Toastmasters have to undertake. Engagement, as I mentioned, was an issue. If you've ever sat in either on online or a hybrid and the audience is turned off their camera, you may have a sense that you've lost their engagement. And this comes up, I know that this has probably happened to you, but I've given presentations where when I get to ask the audience questions, and I'll ask someone who may be online because they have the square, but their video's off, and it turns out they really aren't there. They've moved on. You've lost that part of the engagement of your audience, because when you ask them a question, they don't answer because they have left the scene. They've just left their computer on. They've blanked out their image. They're in mute, but they are in the kitchen fixing a meal or a sandwich or a snack or something. You've lost them. But some of the things that will help you with engagement are vocal variety, facial expression. That's another one that you really have to focus on in a hybrid environment so that your online audience can get the cues that they might otherwise miss. If you had the opportunity to watch the World Championship of Public Speaking I think it's still available online, and I know it's available on YouTube. The second place winner in that was an online presentation. And the things that kept the audience engaged included the use of vocal variety. You have to really focus on that. And the facial expressions of the presenter, hand gestures, very important. You have a small screen, and how you use those hand gestures becomes critically important in this kind of environment. And then movement within that frame. I attended a meeting. I won't mention where it was, but I was online. It was a hybrid meeting. But one of the presenters kept walking out of the frame, or at least walking towards the frame, so that his head was cut off. You could see neck down, but he didn't realize that he was doing it. And apparently no one in the room was really helping monitor the situation. But he would walk in and out of the proper framing, and periodically his head would be cut off. You could hear it, but it was very, very distracting and very not a good look at a presentation skill. So when you're doing it, I think one of the things is to be aware of your movements within the frame, as well as these other issues of vocal variety and facial expression. But have a monitor nearby and take a look at it periodically. Don't stare at the monitor, obviously, or the computer, but watch yourself, practice before the event, and then you will be able to better control your movement within the frame and stay within the frame, and at the same time, keep your in-room audience engaged. And then one other tip here is using presentation software. And I should probably expand that to say using any kind of video enhancement, showing a video or what have you, as part of your presentation is a little bit different. You need to make sure if you're doing a video that not only can your in-room audience see it, but the online audience can see it as well. And I'll have a few tips for you for using presentation software here in just a moment. Oh, coming right up, here we go. Tools and techniques for using presentation software. Those of you who watch me on the show know that I love PowerPoint. I use PowerPoint a lot. I've learned how to make it better. At least I hope it's better than when I first started out. And some of these very tools and techniques are part of what has helped me to make it better. First of all, select the software that you want to use. You don't have to use PowerPoint. There are others out there. And your presentation software could consist of something totally outside of what we normally think of, using like a Canva presentation or some of the alternatives to PowerPoint. There are lots of options out there. PowerPoint just happens to be the one that is probably the most pervasive. It's the one that's everywhere you look, you can usually find PowerPoint and all the other Microsoft stuff. One of the things you want to think about when you're doing a hybrid presentation is to maybe select a larger font size. Now, I'll be able to watch this video a little bit later. I'll go back and review it and determine whether or not I've selected the right font size, because you're maybe sitting out there and thinking, well, Ken, yours are smaller than they should be. This is a font size that I have used with good results before, so hopefully it'll still stand me in good stead. But when you do have an online audience, you want to think about that. Use a larger font size, and really, even if you're just doing a regular in-person presentation, think about the people in the back of the room. Larger font size can help them. Fewer items per page, and this is something I have to work on myself, because I know I like to sort of go through 8 or 10 items on a single page, and that's really too much. And maybe even on this one, keep it simple. Keep large fonts, fewer items per page. Use high contrast. You can see in this picture that I've put on the screen here in the lower right-hand corner, black background, white slides. So a presentation with high color contrast, fewer items per page, and larger font size, it'll be easier for your audience to see, whether they're in room or online. But certainly the online audience is at something of a disadvantage, because they are forced to live with whatever the camera shows them, the quality of the camera, the quality of your speakers, and the quality of the presentation software that you're using and whatever you've designed. Verbalize pauses. I hadn't thought about this. And I'm still kind of on screen here, so you can see me. But if you have certain techniques that will show, that fill the whole screen, for example, where you can't see the presenter and all you can see is the screen, you want to verbalize your pauses. Say something like, "I'll be right back." If you were to leave your presentation on pause, your attendees might feel like there's something wrong that they've missed. There's a technology glitch and you lose them right away. You want to say something that will let them know, "I'll be back. I'm not abandoning you." So verbalize pauses. And a faster pace. This was something I learned as I was researching for this presentation today. And it makes a certain amount of sense. When we look at a Zoom presentation or a hybrid or online presentation, what comes to mind, what we're most familiar with, is TV, television, or the movies. Television and movies are designed to be fast-paced. If they're not, you quickly lose the audience. The audience gets bored. They wander off. Your mind wanders. But that faster pace, moving from scene to scene, sort of gets us acclimated to being focused on the action. What's going to happen next? Because we don't want to lose the thread of the story or the line of the story. And that applies as well when you're doing a presentation in a hybrid format. Then there are some presenter variables. I want to revisit a few. And you can see right here in the upper right-hand corner, I found a picture of different facial expressions. And certainly facial expression is vitally important, whether you are online or in person or in a hybrid way. Another thing that's important is audience involvement. If you can get the audience involved in your webinar or whatever it might be, that's going to keep them engaged more so than if they're just passively watching a presentation like you are now. So sorry, but you do have an option to put something in the chat box on Facebook. I can't see it right now, but I will be taking a look at that in just a moment when I get this wrapped up a bit. The pacing, we talked a little bit about that. The pacing may need to be taken up a notch, because if it's a little bit too slow, your audience will become disengaged. They might lose interest. Well rehearsed. You want to make sure that you rehearse your presentation as often as you can, and you can record it now. You can call up your Zoom account. It's free, and record it, and then watch it later and watch it over. Make changes, record it again, and rehearse it again. I was fortunate enough, for example, in 2016, I won the District 33 humorous contest. And I have to tell you, I rehearsed that speech over and over and over. And my favorite method, of course, it was not a hybrid presentation, was when I take the dog for a walk, I'd give my presentation to her. She got pretty bored. So, but the point here is rehearse your presentation in a hybrid setting. Think about your vocal variety, your facial expressions. How are they going to be used to enhance your presentation, to keep your audience engaged? Think about hand gestures and movement within the frame. Don't accidentally cut your own head off because that's very, very distracting. And then balance your focus. This is really, really challenging. At least I have found it to be very, very challenging. When you're in a hybrid meeting, as I mentioned before, you're kind of focused on the in-room audience. They are there, it's immediate, you're in person. It's a very, very different environment. But you can't ignore your online audience. You have to work as part of your presentation skills, engaging the in-room and not ignoring the online audience. And I found that very, very challenging because you do tend to get caught up. But I can't help believing that as we become more and more experienced in a hybrid environment, the balance will become probably second nature. over time. Now, I did some research for this topic today. Of course, it's a topic that I had been interested in because we're coming up on contest season. Early next year, we'll be starting club contests and moving on to area, division, and district. And for me, that's a great love. But one of the things that's different this year is it's going to be hybrid. Our contests will be hybrid. So we will have contestants both in person and online. So I've become much more engaged myself and interested in gathering information, maybe if you like this to present and help others, about how do we deal with a hybrid contest or a hybrid presentation. Some great resources I'm going to share with you. Toastmasters Magazine has some wonderful articles, particularly this first one I'm mentioning here is in this month's edition, Presenting in Today's Virtual World, by Dave Zelensky's great article, gives you lots of tips and tricks. Prepare your technology like a pro, and that's Gregory Schomeler, I think. Not sure I'm pronouncing that right. But he also talks about checking your equipment and anticipate that something's going to go wrong. So have a backup plan and practice. It's sort of like a fire drill. If you've ever given a presentation online or in an audience, it can be like a fire drill where you're going to test it before you do it to figure out where the weaknesses are and what's going to happen. And then the third article here I'm going to reference, and all of these are free online, Present with Executive Presence, and that's by Christine Cloud. So I'm going to stop sharing right now. Let me get out of this and close that and stop sharing. There we go. All right, so we are back. Me. I didn't have a co-host today, but I do have some comments online from Jennifer Smith. Thank you, Jennifer. She says, we love your PowerPoint presentations. I think she's just being kind because that is her nature, but thank you very much, Jennifer. And thank everyone who's out there today. We'll be wrapping up here at 6:30. It always goes by so quickly. Time flies when you're having fun. So to wrap up, practice, practice, practice when you are a presenter in a hybrid environment, and think about both your in-room and your online audience. Go back to those articles in the Toastmasters magazine, and I'm sure you will learn things as I did. In terms of announcements, I do want to remind everyone that we have some district officer training this Saturday. If you are a district officer in 115, it will be hybrid. The in-person version will be at the Spring Valley Library. If you need the link for the hybrid version, just shoot me an email and I will get that to you. It's krichardson.lvnv@gmail.com. I should have that on a slide. I apologize that I don't, but I'll get that to you. The other thing that's coming up this Saturday in the evening, we will have educational enrichment night. We have a great lineup of presenters, including we're going to have learn how to do a podcast, to put together a podcast. We talked about podcasts, and I think that's going to be very, very exciting. We're going to have pathways, new member orientation, and Jason Leduc is going to talk about goal setting for success. So it's going to be a very, very great evening, I think. So please come and join us. Looking a little bit further down the line, on December 3rd, we'll have our early bird TLI. And the links for all of those are in the newsletter. And if you can't find your copy of the newsletter, it is online on our website, d115tm.org. You can go there and there's a page for the newsletter. Thank you for joining me today. It's been fun, even though I haven't had my usual co-host here and you've had to listen to me drone on all day. I hope you found it useful and that you had a bit of a learning opportunity. And I will say goodbye. I will see you again on Tuesday. Have a great weekend, everyone.